everyone. So if you are reading or if you saw the title of this video, then you know I'm here to talk about my life story, well, I'm not saying mainly my adoption story, but that was a big part of my life. Don't mind my cat. I don't know if you can even see her in the frame, but she's sitting right here in her spot. But yeah, I'm going to talk about my life story, kind of my upbringing, my adoption story at the same time. And yeah, I did one of these on my vlog channel, how me and my husband met, but I never made one for myself, and I don't have a whiteboard, so I'm not going to do a draw my life. Instead, I'm just going to sit down and talk to you guys. Hopefully this isn't boring, but I thought I would share my story with you guys. Maybe there are some of you that are looking to adopt, or actually that's my husband calling. I'll be right back. That was my husband calling just to let me know when he was going to be home. He's out right now helping his dad, so yeah. Anywho, so let's go back to August 19th, 1991, and that is when I was born. I was born in a city about 25 minutes away from where I am right now, to a 26-year-old woman, and she had two children before that, and yeah, I was like, and wait, no, just two. So she had already a daughter and a son, making them my sister and brother, and she had all of these children with different men. So we were all 2 years apart at this point, and like I said, we all had different dads. And we had relatives that had already been in the foster care system, so it wasn't new for the Children's Aid Society when they found out about our situation. So I guess how the story goes is when she had my little sister 2 years after me, she was in the hospital, I believe, for bronchitis. And my brother thought that my grandfather had hurt her. Now, that is something that you need to know. So we had sexual abuse in the family, as well as poverty. The living conditions weren't clean, and there wasn't, what's the right word? There wasn't a lot of, our needs, our basic needs were not being met, I guess I could say that. And he thought that she was hurt, so he had went to the neighbor and told her what had happened, or what he thought had happened. And that is when the neighbor kind of was like alarmed, some red flags went off, and she got in contact with the Children's Aid Society. So the story goes. I am going to say that through a lot of this, just because this is just what I've been told. So at this point, I'm 2. My sister's only a couple months old. My other sister is 4, and my brother, who had gotten a hold of the neighbor, was 6 at the time. So we ended up getting taken out of the home, and they could not find a home that would take all 4 of us. So me and my younger sister got split up, and my older sister and my older brother got split up. And that is who we were living with. So this is now like October of 1993. In July of 95. Yes, July of 95, my parents adopted 2 girls from Haiti. So one girl was my age. I was older than her by 4 months. And the other girl, or 3 months? September, October, November, December. Okay, 4 months. And the other little girl was the same age as my younger sister, but my sister was older than her by 4 months. And we were so excited to get these new sisters. They weren't legally our sisters, but we pretty much called them our sisters. We got everything ready. And they were not biological sisters, but they came from the same orphanage. So the oldest started school at the same time as me that following September. But because I was with a Catholic Children's Aid Society, they would not let me go to a public school. I had to go to a Catholic school. So I was told. So my sister went to the public school and I went to the Catholic school. In April of 1998, this is when my birth mom had passed away. Now at some point I became a Crown Ward, which means the government technically owned me. My mom did not have custody of me anymore. Nobody had custody of me, and I was just kind of like free for the taking, I guess you could say. And my parents really wanted to adopt me and my little sister. I had been with them since I was 2. My sister was like 2.5 months, and they really wanted to adopt us, but the family didn't think that was a good idea. Actually, this had happened a few years prior when they were adopting my other 2 siblings. They didn't think that that was a good idea for us to stay in the home with them bringing 2 new girls in, and my parents had to fight that because they wanted to adopt us and go through all those lawyers and things like that. So they won, and they were able to start the process to adopt me. And in April of '98, that's when my birth mom had passed away. Now, my biological father was not in the picture. Nobody's biological father was in the picture at all. So none of them had custody of us. And yeah, so when my birth mom passed away in 1998, I believe it was from a seizure. They found her. So the story goes. So officially I was a Crown Ward, and I was parentless, I guess you could say. So in August of 1998, that is when me and my sister officially became, or no, September of 1998, we officially became members of the family, I guess you could say, and we were adopted. So the joke is always that my other sisters who got adopted were adopted first, but we have more seniority over them. That's always like the joke that we tease each other with. So that is kind of what my life was like. And I lived in a rural area. We lived right in front of a park, which was awesome, and me and my sisters were very close. It was kind of like having 2 sets of twins, I guess you could say. And when I was adopted, I was able to go, or when the process started, so the process must have started, something must have happened, because when I started grade 1, I didn't have to go to the Catholic school anymore. I could go to the public school. So that must have been when they started the adoption process, because it does take a while. And then in November of 1999, we moved from a rural home to a farm, I guess you could say. My dad's dad had property, and in his will, he had given my dad this land, so we had built a house there. And so in November of 1999, we moved out there, and by this point, I'd been to 3 different elementary schools by the time I was 8. So that's a little interesting fact. It definitely made it easy for high school because I pretty much knew everybody. I knew at least somebody in my class because I had been to 3 different public school, or 3 different elementary schools by the time I was 8. So we moved to the farm, and it was definitely a new experience for us, living in a rural area to a farm. We all got a pet chicken, and we loved our chickens. We dressed them up. I'll try, if I find any like footage, I will insert them somewhere on the screen. But we had chickens, and we would put them in their strollers and paint their nails and put lipstick on them and dress them up. Like, they were our dolls. And so that was one of the fun parts about living on the farm. The planting part and working and picking was not our favorite part, but we made it work. And looking back, it sucked as a kid. I don't think our parents pushed us at all or anything like that, but we did have to help out a lot. I feel like our childhood was not the norm of childhoods, just because, like I said, we were working on a farm and we had like pet chickens, and we spent a lot of time as a family together working on the farm. So that was kind of what my life was like growing up. Another thing too was that we had 3 older siblings. So my parents had 3 siblings of their own. They had 2 girls and a son. So when we became adopted, we were now a family of 7, which was a big family for us. But we never grew up with our older siblings. They were all starting college and university when we came around, or just finishing high school. So I don't really remember living with them. So it's really interesting. In college, we actually had to do a project about where you were in the birth order, and so I feel like I got to be all 3. I've been the oldest because growing up, that's all I knew was me and my 3 other siblings, and I technically was the oldest, and I felt like I definitely took on that older sibling role. And then if you look at the whole family, I have 3 older siblings, 3 younger siblings, which makes me the middle child. And then if you look at my biological family, which I still keep in contact with all of my siblings, I'm the second youngest. So I get to feel kind of like the baby of the family. Not quite. I do have a sister that's younger than me, a biological sister and an adopted sister. So I don't get to 100% feel like the youngest, but pretty close. So that was that. Another thing too that was very interesting with our childhood was we had exchange students. We had exchange students from Norway, from France, from Spain, from all over the world as a kid, because like I said, my older siblings were finishing high school, if not starting university or college. And it was really cool because we got to experience different cultures, and we knew about the world. We knew about all these countries around the world that probably not a lot of people our age knew about. My mom actually had this shirt, and she said at one point I could name all the countries, I could name all the flags that were on the shirt and what country they belonged to, which I thought was really cool. I couldn't tell you now, but as a kid she said I could do that. So that was something that was interesting as well. And then I started high school. I went to the same public high school, grade 9 till 12, and then that is when I met my current husband, was after high school, and eventually I went to college. I finished college, and we moved out together 6 months after that. And yeah, we've been living together ever since. We got married, and now I'm expecting with our first little one, which is so exciting. This will be like the closest thing I have really to like a blood relative, I feel like. So I'm so excited. We're so excited. It's gonna be a little girl, and yeah, that is pretty much my life story. I feel like this video wasn't too long. Hopefully it wasn't too long or boring. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them down below. I definitely feel grateful. There's so many people that never get adopted or go from home to home, and so I'm just so grateful that I only ended up in one foster home and they adopted us, and I've been with them since I was 2, so I feel like I've been with them my whole life. And my sister was like 2.5 months old, so I'm sure she does as well. I mean, there are some, I guess I could touch on some of the disappointing facts or things. So I only have 2 photos of myself before the age of 2, and that was a newborn photo and a photo of me when I was 6 months old. And who's to even say they're actually me? I like to pretend they are me. I've had people tell me that they don't think that it is and that they don't look like me, and I don't know why these people would tell me that, because for somebody who's adopted, you will take anything that you can get from your past. I mean, maybe not, but for me that was the case. I also ordered my birth certificate. I live in Ontario, and so I ordered mine because I wanted the full one. I have obviously the mini one, but the full one would give you your parents' signatures. And I wanted to see my birth mom's signature and my birth father's signature. And I know that sounds silly to some people, but it's just something that you can have, something of theirs that you can have. I've thought about looking for my birth dad, but then I was like, you know what, I have a birth dad, or I mean I have a dad, and I don't know, I have no desire. Maybe in the future again I'll change my mind, but for right now I don't really have like I said, a desire to. Alrighty, so my battery died and on my phone, so I'm now on my camera, so now I'm on my iPhone finishing this up. But like I said, I have no desire to meet my birth dad. And something else that I was talking about was my birth certificate, and so I filed for it, and it came in, I filed for it, and they told me to write my parents' name down, which I did, and I got a call saying that was wrong. They have no information on these being my parents, and what they wanted was my adoptive parents, because it was a close adoption. So I had to write my parents' name down, and what is so messed up about at least the Ontario system is if you look at it, it will tell you my adoptive parents' names. It'll tell you where I grew up, which is the truth, but at the same time it's not, because I grew up in the city for 2 years before I moved to where, not to where I live now, but to my parents' house. And if you look at that, it does not show my original address. It only shows where my parents lived. It also gives you the age of my parents when I would have been born. Like, it is so messed up that it looks like I was never adopted and these were my parents the entire time. It has their signatures, not my biological siblings, and the only way you can tell that it's not my original is there in the corner there's a tiny little date that says July of 97, I think it is, which obviously I was not born in July 97. That would have meant that they didn't file for my birth certificate until 6 years later, but that just shows you, or maybe it was like 95, no, it had to have been like 97 or something, but just shows you not necessarily how messed up the system is, because I get it, it was a close adoption, but it's just hard for somebody like me who was adopted and would just love any little thing they have. Even if my birth mother was alive, I don't even know what kind of relationship I would have had with her, because I know deep down, I had a lot of like anger against her, and then I just kind of grew up and I was like, you know what, she just wasn't a healthy person. She never got the help that she needed, and she was not in a good, healthy environment. And she wasn't surrounded by people who were healthy as well. It was just not a good system. So who's to say she would have gotten help? I'm not 100% sure. I know she had lots of opportunities to help herself, and it just didn't happen, and we never went back. Once they took us out, they never put us back in her care, so she never got a second chance. So everybody can look at this differently, how they want, but yeah, that's my life story / adoption story. If you have any questions, definitely feel free to leave them down below, and I can answer them as best as I can. But that is everything for this video, and I will see you guys next time.